when you say Leonardo DiCaprio, he's got a lawsuit against BuzzFeed because of something that they said with him regarding Diddy?
What did Leonardo DiCaprio witness that shattered the glamour of Hollywood's most exclusive party? Why did he risk his career and safety to describe it under oath?
Yeah, so the guy BuzzFeed referenced that he has stills of a sexual encounter between...
Before we begin, viewer discretion is strongly advised. The following is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This is the verbatim federal courtroom testimony of the Sean Diddy Combs trial, as reported by Inner City Press. In a packed courtroom, already rocked by explosive testimonies, Hollywood superstar Leonardo DiCaprio took the stand, and no one expected what came out next. Known for blockbuster films and environmental activism, DiCaprio revealed a dark chapter of his life most had never imagined. His voice shook as he described one invitation that changed everything he thought he knew about celebrity parties. It wasn't just champagne and cameras. It was something much, much darker. What DiCaprio revealed not only stunned the jury, but ignited a media firestorm that forced even the most powerful to finally face the music.
Between Combs and an A-list celebrity with a much higher status than Combs. So it's...
Everyone in the courtroom held their breath as the judge called the room to order. DiCaprio entered in a dark suit, his gaze steady but haunted. The hush that fell over the gallery felt heavier than any standing ovation he had ever received. No cameras were allowed, but every mind in the room replayed that moment in slow motion. When the actor took his seat and stared across at Sean Diddy, Combs, it was clear. This was no red carpet appearance. This was testimony.
When I started acting again and going to auditions, I'd always get to like the final callback. And I think
DiCaprio described the mansion where the party was held. A remote, fortress-like estate, reached only by private jet and guarded entrances. Initially lured by thoughts of glittering celebrities mingling over champagne, he quickly sensed something amiss. There were off-limit rooms, guests who seemed out of place, and a tangible tension that intensified as the night wore on. Security towers loomed, their guards all business as they herded guests through opulent corridors. But it wasn't until DiCaprio spotted a partially open door that the facade cracked wide open.
many people know what that's like. And there would always be like two other guys that I was up against. And we'd always lose to this.
Behind that door lay a dimly lit chamber. Cameras were rigged in every corner, and a line of uncomfortable guests waited their turn. DiCaprio's testimony painted a chilling picture. A girl no older than 20 seated on a plush couch, surrounded by men much older and visibly tense. The moment their eyes locked, her terror was undeniable. DiCaprio's voice quavered as he recalled that look, one of pure desperation. He realized immediately this was no mere party, but a meticulously orchestrated operation built on fear and control.
One kid. And no actor would ever say his name because it was like too much. But every casting director would whisper in there, "It's Leonardo, it's Leonardo." Ah!
When security intercepted him and redirected him with unsettling politeness, he recognized it as a warning. He was escorted to a glass-walled lounge where soft jazz played and conversations were forbidden. His phone had no signal. His driver was inexplicably delayed. After an agonizing hour, he was finally allowed to leave. But the fear stayed with him. For years, he carried that memory alone, until exploding allegations around Diddy gave him the courage to speak. On the stand, DiCaprio described overhearing rumors of a list, a dossier used to control and blackmail anyone who dared object. He spoke of hidden blueprints for secret rooms and surveillance centers built into the mansion. He evoked a network of power so insidious that entire careers and reputations were weaponized to ensure silence. Producers, directors, and influencers he once called friends suddenly became distant, leaving him to wonder whether they feared crossing the same invisible line. Then came the basement. Following a mistaken turn while searching for a restroom, DiCaprio stumbled onto a narrow staircase leading below. There, behind tinted glass, he saw another young woman, no older than 18, huddled on the floor, crying for help. The guard who had been stalking him closed the door with a clap that echoed in the stairwell and hissed, "Wrong floor. You saw nothing." That moment, DiCaprio said, shattered any illusion that Hollywood parties were harmless fun. He spent years haunted by the sound of her sobs, tortured by guilt for not doing more.
So there are a lot of conspiracy theories around Diddy and his celebrity friends floating around the internet. I went through every single legal filing and looked at—
Under relentless questioning, DiCaprio resisted using the first person. Instead, he spoke of the actor who witnessed the horrors, of the guest trapped by polite but firm security, and of the girl who embodied the silenced victims. His testimony was unsparing, his tone sober yet charged with urgency. He painted Diddy's estate as a lighthouse, a sinister beacon that illuminated the darkest impulses of power and fear. Those who entered it could see everything, and once they saw, they could never unsee. The courtroom gasped when DiCaprio testified that he had observed Diddy exchange a discreet envelope with a high-level political operative at a private fundraiser. Though he stopped short of accusing any politician of wrongdoing, the implication was clear. This operation reached into corridors of influence far beyond music and film. The hush that followed rivaled the one at the start of his testimony. No one moved. No one spoke. He recounted attempts to warn Hollywood executives and studio heads, efforts met with veiled threats and career-crippling ultimatums. One producer allegedly warned that speaking out would render him uninsurable overnight. He described how the term lighthouse spread quietly, whispered among those who had seen its horrors, and used as a grim badge of initiation into the deepest circle of Diddy's inner sanctum.
what celebrities are actually named. I reached out to every single famous person accused of actual wrongdoing. They either didn't get back to me or denied.
With each revelation, Diddy's facade of charisma and power inched toward collapse. The actor on the stand became the voice for dozens, perhaps hundreds, who had been too afraid to speak. As DiCaprio laid out the sealed envelopes, the documents, the security logs, and the anonymous messages handed to him by a terrified assistant, the judge called for a recess. When court reconvened, the defense attempted to undermine his credibility, but every line of questioning was met with unwavering resolve. Finally, the prosecution allowed DiCaprio one last statement. Speaking directly to the man across the room, the actor declared that his purpose was not vengeance, but accountability. He said, "This trial isn't about celebrity. It's about a system that permitted abuse under the guise of glamour." At that moment, cameras outside the courthouse flashed, capturing the stunned expressions of onlookers, who had never imagined a Hollywood icon wielding such brutal honesty in a courtroom. The courtroom drama only deepened as the cameras turned away. News outlets erupted with theories about the sealed files and whispered deals. Industry insiders began to whisper of an exodus from projects backed by Sean Diddy Combs. Studio chairs once reserved for his productions sat empty. Investors paused, big-budget ventures linked to his name. The fallout wasn't just legal, it was financial, reputational, and cultural.
What celebrities are actually named. I reached out to every single famous person accused of actual wrongdoing. They either didn't get back to me or denied.
As headlines screamed, other voices found courage. Former guests of that fateful mansion stepped forward, sharing brief but chilling recollections. Some spoke of eerily silent hallways, others of hushed warnings not to ask questions. Each new account chipped away at Diddy's carefully constructed image. Journalists pored over flight logs and guest lists uncovered in court documents. Every detail fueled public outrage. Meanwhile, Diddy's defense scrambled. Attorneys filed motions to seal evidence and discredit witnesses. They argued that vague memories and anonymous tips could not stand against a presumption of fame and fortune. In dusty legal libraries, scholars debated whether a celebrity's allure could unduly sway a jury. Some cautioned that without hard proof, a dangerous precedent might take hold, undermining the justice system's integrity. Outside the courthouse, protesters gathered. Signs demanded accountability, chanting that no one, no matter the star power, should be above the law. Activist groups used social media to organize hashtags, driving hashtags like See the Lighthouse and hashtags like Halloween Exposed. Their digital campaigns trended worldwide, drawing statements from NGOs and human rights organizations. Suddenly, a party once cloaked in secrecy was laid bare for all to see.
Denied it. R&B singer Aaron Hall and Sean Combs were accused of sexually assaulting a 16-year-old girl in 1990.
Amid the storm, the actor's philanthropic network mobilized. Environmental campaigns he supported issued statements of solidarity, emphasizing that speaking truth to power was a universal value. Colleagues from the film world publicly praised his courage, even as they bristled at the notion that such horrors had thrived undetected. The Film Academy quietly updated its ethics guidelines, citing the case as a wake-up call for industry oversight. On the legal front, civil suits began to multiply. Plaintiffs sought damages for emotional distress and alleged trafficking. Lawyers who once lined up to work for Diddy now advertised their services to his accusers. The courtroom's echo of sobs and threats gave way to meticulous depositions and piles of subpoenas. Architects, psychologists, digital forensic specialists prepared to testify on the mansion's layout and the psychological trauma inflicted on its victims. In boardrooms, executives re-examined contracts and morality clauses. Banks reviewed lending agreements tied to Diddy's ventures. Insurance underwriters added lighthouse exposure to their risk assessments. The term that once signified a dark nexus of power had mutated into a stark warning across multiple industries. No memorandum or handshake could erase its taint.
Music producer Harv Pierre is listed as a defendant in 3 lawsuits, including one from former Danity Kane singer Don Richard.
Soon, international players weighed in. Foreign press drew parallels to scandals abroad, questioning how wealth and influence repeatedly shielded the powerful. Cultural commentators asked why so many powerful figures were willing to stay silent. Debates flickered between calls for stricter celebrity accountability and concerns about due process. The discourse spilled from tabloids into universities, think tanks, and dinner table conversations worldwide. As civil trials loomed, attention shifted to potential legislative changes. Lawmakers drafted bills aimed at strengthening protections for individuals at high-profitable events. Some proposals targeted surveillance overreach, others focused on victim rights. Committee hearings featured testimonies from legal experts and survivors. Even lobbyists for the entertainment industry admitted the status quo was unsustainable. Behind the scenes, reputations fractured. Some of Diddy's longtime allies faced moral reckonings and professional crossroads. Agents, managers, and even PR firms began distancing themselves, fearing scandal by association. Others rushed to salvage their names, issuing contrite statements or promising internal audits. The webs of connections spun tight for decades, now threatened to unravel overnight.
Accused of sex trafficking, grooming, and sexual assault. Actor Cuba Gooding Jr. was accused of groping a music producer named Rod.
In smaller venues, grassroots survivors groups organized support circles for those affected. Therapists volunteered their time, offering pro bono sessions. Safe house operators alerted authorities to possible re-trafficking patterns. The actor's testimony had ignited more than legal action. It had sparked a movement. Suddenly, the phrase "never look away" applied not only to an audience in a theater, but to every person with the power to intervene. Even in Hollywood, scriptwriters began weaving lighthouse themes into new projects. Films exploring abuse of power and hidden horrors found renewed backing. Documentarians pitched deep dives into high society scandal. Every project carried an unspoken promise. Show the darkness, but shine a light on those who dared to expose it. The industry recognized that entertainment could no longer ignore its shadows. Back in court, as jury selection for the civil cases approached, Diddy's team mounted a final offensive. They called character witnesses, including a handful of celebrities who described him as generous and supportive. But the emotional weight of DiCaprio's testimony proved hard to counter. Jurors, already exposed to media coverage, carried private doubts and public pressure.
Jones Jr. Diddy's 30-year-old son, Justin Dior Combs, was accused of engaging in freak-offs and soliciting sex workers and underage.
In the end, the first civil trial opened with the stained glass of the courthouse windows, casting colored light on weary faces. Plaintiffs, some trembling, took the stand. They spoke of stolen youth, of fear so profound it outlasted the parties themselves. The courtroom grew silent in sympathy, a stark reversal from the raucous nights at Diddy's estate. Though the legal battles would stretch on for years, one outcome was undeniable. Power, when misused, provoked its own reckoning.
Girls. One of the accusers says she was forced to have sex with Jacob the jeweler at one of Diddy's famous white parties. If you want to see the full fact-checked list of everybody accused and what they're accused of, check out my article on businessinsider.com. Beware of all the conspiracies.
The actor's decision to testify under oath became a turning point, a reminder that even legends can act heroically. And the mansion, once whispered about in gossip columns, transformed into a symbol of vigilance. If society refused to look away, perhaps fewer lighthouses of secrecy would ever be built again. For viewers who followed this saga from the first question to this extended chapter, remember that accountability begins with awareness. If this story moved you, subscribe for more deep dives. Like this video if you stand with the brave, and leave a comment sharing your thoughts. Every voice matters in shining light on the shadows.